Back now on this special voter education edition of Triad Today. Again, apologies for the laryngitis. My wife Pam told me to tell you guys, if you notice, the audience noticed in our first segment, these gentlemen were not arguing loudly, and that's because my wife told them not to, because I couldn't interrupt and because I can't talk loud enough. No, they're just nice guys. Let's continue this civil discussion, but talk about the transgender issue, gentlemen. And the reason I bring it up, and I know you're saying, well, we're running for Congress. But recently, President Obama sent out 13,000 letters to school superintendents threatening to take away federal funds if the schools didn't accommodate a 15-year-old boy. I'm using an example, a 15-year-old boy who thinks he's a girl, so that boy who thinks he's a girl can use the same shower as the girls and the locker facilities and whatever. I want to get your thoughts on, was that an appropriate thing for the president to do, and are you okay with trying to make these accommodations? I'm talking about schools mainly, not so much the HB2 bill, but this thing is taken off into a school issue. Pete?
Well, first of all, if we just use the North Carolina High School Athletic Association policy that they've had in place for 2 years, this wouldn't have come up to begin with, because it mandated a reasonable policy that would have avoided this whole situation altogether. And I hold Governor McCrory accountable for not using any leadership whatsoever in making this become a huge issue that hurts job creation in North Carolina.
You know, he was under pressure. He only had a couple days to act before the Charlotte ordinance went into effect. I mean, I'm not trying to defend him, but I'm just saying they had to have a quick turnaround, but he's getting slammed for a quick turnaround.
But that's a lack of leadership to begin with. He knew it was coming from a long time before that. He said he sent him an email. Well, I can send you an email, but you won't do anything about it until I come sit down with you.
I got you.
It's a matter of leadership, and that's what we need. We need leadership to have reasonable laws that they passed a law they're not even going to enforce.
I understand, but what about the other part? And then I'll get to Mark, Pete. What about the other part? Was it appropriate for Obama to threaten? I mean, when you threaten the schools, you're threatening to cut off some of the free lunch programs and things like that. I mean, was that an appropriate thing to send that letter?
I think it was probably on the edge of bully pulpit, and no more than that. If he wanted to do something, really, he should have done something worse than that, but he didn't.
Mark?
Yeah, this is a point that my opponent and I, Mr. Glidewell, strongly disagree. Even in fact, the co-owner of the Charlotte Bobcat said this was about the Charlotte City Council overreaching. Specifically on the federal side of it, with Obama's letter, we were the first office, our office sent a letter. We had 78 members sign on to it. Specifically, there was phrasing in this 6-page mandate, and I'll give you this part of it verbatim, that would allow the student to override both his or her parents and the student's decision to get away from the stereotypes of masculinity and femininity. Our questions to the president was, how in the world does a teacher police this? Already in tough environments, whether it's rural or inner city, that she has a 15, 16-year-old boy that's wised up to this because of gender fluidity. One week he feels this way or she feels this way, wants to go in the locker room. From a teacher's perspective, I have no problem protecting the rights of all different genders and people, but from the teacher's perspective, how in the world do you expect her to enforce this when there's a safety situation?
I understand. Pete, you want to respond in any way to that?
Like I said, you can enforce it. It's impossible to enforce. It's been going on since time began, and it is costing us $5 billion a year in economic development in North Carolina.
You're specifically hitting on HB2, which, and I agree with you, and I told the governor when he was here, it was poorly written. I think I understand why they did it. He did not author it, by the way. The lieutenant governor and some others did that. But that notwithstanding, my point is that it was geared toward the rights of state employees who may or may not be transgender. But my question is really going to what's happening around the country with this school thing and what Obama did, and it really frightens me that we're going to let students and parents and teachers try to work this thing out in the school system.
Taking away the choice of education in general from the parents has been a problem in the last 30 years. Now we're even encroaching to the place that you can even rescind that what your students, a 7-year-old is going to tell the teacher or his parents which bathroom he's going to be attending from one week to the other week. It just makes no sense whatsoever.
Again, I'm an independent, but on this issue, and I'm very liberal, but it just bothers me. It just doesn't, it seems weird to me on the school level. not on the adult level maybe.
I just really think we should have had more debate about it before anything was
Well,
done.
I agree. I think if there should have been more time. Pete, before we wrap up on this segment, trade deals. You guys don't have to be told that we've lost millions of jobs because of NAFTA. Now TPP's on the table. Very quickly, guys, give me 30 seconds or so. As a congressman, would you repeal NAFTA and vote against TPP?
Well, first of all, I'd vote against TPP in a heartbeat. TPP not only will cost this district, particularly, some districts in North Carolina may have some advantage, but the TPP will cost this district so many jobs. It will cost the nation 300,000 jobs, all for $3 billion net increase in business,
Mark,
and
what-
lose our sovereignty.
An opponent on Facebook has attacked me for being pro-TPP, which is inaccurate. Our official statement is that we were not in favor of TPP. The TPA we did because it put 150 parameters on the president that he had to give to the American people. The actual TPP has some problems, even in the human rights side with Malaysia and some of the things that I have gross problems with.
All right. We're going to take a quick break and come back. I want to talk about health care.